All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We are looking at a massive, completely silent shift happening inside our heads right now, and it is actively draining what is arguably our most valuable asset. Is it possible your brain's processing power is officially in a bear market? Because the modern systems surrounding us are essentially shorting your intelligence for profit. And if we don't reverse this personal cognitive decline, well, you aren't just losing IQ points, you're losing your competitive edge before the game even starts. So ask yourself, are you actually smarter than your grandparents? We love to just assume that we are, right? With better technology, immediate access to global knowledge, and basically endless information right in our pockets, we've got to be the smartest generation yet. I mean, we carry around smartphones that can calculate orbital trajectories. But the data just came back, and there is a shocking plot twist. The reality of our actual biological intelligence, it is definitely not what we think it is. For a good 50 years, humanity was on an absolute winning streak. It was this phenomenon known as the Flynn Effect. Across the board, every new generation was reliably scoring about 3 IQ points higher per decade than the last one. We totally thought we were just evolving into this high-functioning superspecies. But then, right around 1995, massive long-term studies across multiple developed countries confirmed that the line stopped rising. And then, it reversed. For the first time in recorded history, our global intelligence scores are actually crashing. Now, to really get why this is such a catastrophe, we have to pinpoint exactly what is dropping. And it's our fluid intelligence. Think of fluid intelligence literally like the RAM, the random access memory in your laptop. It's your mental workspace. It's how you hold complex tasks, spot patterns, and reason under pressure without a manual. For decades, we were upgrading our mental hardware, moving from, say, 4 gigs of RAM to 16. But lately, it's like we've been downgraded to a flip phone processor. We are losing our cognitive liquidity, and that makes us highly vulnerable to making poor decisions, especially in incredibly complex financial markets. You know, when this data first dropped, we told ourselves a really comfortable lie to make it okay. People immediately pointed to the dysgenics hypothesis. The theory was basically just that highly educated people were having fewer kids, and less educated people were having more. So, the math was just genetically working against us. It carried this cold authority of arithmetic, and honestly, it let us off the hook. We just thought, oh, it's just math and genetics, nothing we can do. But then 2018 rolls around, and researchers completely shatter that whole genetic myth. Scientists at the Ragnar Frisch Center for Economic Research analyzed this massive data set. We're talking hundreds of thousands of Norwegian military conscripts. But here's the genius part. They didn't just compare random people. They looked specifically at brothers from the exact same households, and they tracked them across 3 decades. And the results? Totally definitive. The younger brothers consistently scored lower on cognitive tests than their older siblings. Despite sharing the same DNA, the same parents, the exact same dinner table, the younger ones scored lower. That meant the dysgenics theory was completely dead. The seed was identical, but the conditions they grew up in were different. This decline we're seeing is 100% environmental. Section 1. The 3 silent cognitive thieves. So, what actually changed in our shared environment after 1975 to cause this drop in executive function? What is out there actively restructuring human cognition? Well, suspect number 1 is our attention. A massive 2023 study of 80,000 people showed that the average time a person can focus on a single screen without switching dropped from 2.5 minutes back in 2004 down to an absolutely astonishing 47 seconds today. Just 47 seconds. Honestly, if you're still watching this explainer, congratulations, you're officially beating the average. But seriously, executive function builds like a muscle. It requires sustained, effortful thought. And we now live in an ecosystem where every platform is literally engineered to interrupt you. Here's the thing. Big tech and financial institutions profit immensely off your fragmented attention. In the finance world, yield is the harvest you get from an investment. To these digital platforms, your dopamine-fried brain is a high-yield crop. An interrupted mind is a consuming mind. It's easily influenced, it's highly reactive, and it is definitely not a critical thinking or long-term investing mind. Moving on to suspect number 2, nutritional erosion. We're dealing with what you could call biological inflation. Our global food supply is actively starving the brain of the high-level fuel it desperately needs to maintain complex reasoning. Back during the Flynn Effect era, iodine, which is absolutely critical for brain development, was widely used as a dough conditioner in commercial bread. But in the 70s and 80s, manufacturers quietly swapped out that brain-boosting iodine for bromine-based alternatives just to cut costs. And the catch? Bromine literally blocks your body's ability to absorb whatever iodine you do manage to consume. This quiet return of iodine deficiency is a condition heavily linked to reducing IQ by 10 to 15 points in developing populations. Which brings us to suspect number 3, educational outsourcing. You see, our modern school systems kind of shifted away from rote memorization, assuming search engines would just do the heavy lifting for us. But the human brain relies on a mechanism called prediction error learning. It only rewires itself and grows stronger when reality surprises an internal expectation or a guess. If you're constantly relying on a search engine or a calculator instead of trying to retrieve a memory yourself, your brain never actually makes a prediction. If there's no prediction, there's no error signal, and without that crucial error signal, you simply do not build deep intelligence. We are collectively suffering from digital amnesia, remembering where to find a piece of information rather than the fact itself. And by outsourcing our memory to devices, we lose what's called automaticity. Basically, our working memory gets completely overwhelmed by really basic tasks. Without internalized foundational blocks or schemas, your brain physically cannot connect abstract ideas or sustain complex reasoning. We are becoming incredible information hunters for sure, but terrible deep thinkers.
All right, Section 4, the convergence, human decline versus AI ascent.
Honestly, all of this feels like just a warm-up when you look at the trends since 2015. This is where the story gets incredibly urgent. Based on massive data from Northwestern University, humans are actually improving at spatial reasoning, navigating 3D menus, playing video games, using digital interfaces. But when it comes to our matrix reasoning, our verbal logic, and our ability to hold complex, abstract thoughts, absolute tailspin. And here is the kicker. The exact executive functions that humans are shedding are precisely the skills that artificial intelligence systems are benchmarking and improving at the fastest. We are essentially trading away our higher-order human faculties just to become spatial navigators for our machines, while AI takes over our ability to hold complex thoughts and reason under pressure. One line goes down, the other goes straight up. Okay, take a breath, because there is a massive silver lining to this entire explainer. Because that Norwegian study proved this cognitive decline is purely environmental, it means it is not permanent. The neural pathways that have weakened, they can be rebuilt. It means we can actually reverse this trend for ourselves. That leads us to Section 5, becoming a cognitive monopoly. If you start treating your brain like a high-value financial portfolio and actively stop the bleeding, you gain what investors call alpha. You become a cognitive monopoly in a room full of highly fragmented minds, and you don't need a PhD to start. You can implement this 72-hour behavioral shift right now. First, do a digital sanity check. Turn off every non-human notification on your phone. Stop letting apps parasite your mental RAM. Second, audit your nutrition. Ditch the ultra-processed seed oils and high-fructose corn syrup that act as cognitive stressors. And finally, beta test some uncomfortable deep work. Take 60 minutes, 0 digital tools, pick a hard problem, and force your brain to actually think it through. Look, at the end of the day, you are your own best analyst. This reverse Flynn effect is basically a downward escalator. If you just stand still, you're going to end up in the basement of cognitive decline. So the choice is entirely yours. Are you going to sit back and let the environment passively rewrite your brain? Or are you going to build the cognitive liquidity to outthink the entire system?